Steve Gamache here once again with a Chef Knives to Go quick look product review. This time we have a Konosuke knife. This is their Keiai T1. They've got a couple different ones in there, so they call 7 series. So this is what's known as the T1. It is a white #1 core steel. It's a Gyuto. It's 210 millimeters. The core steel, as mentioned, is known as Shidogami or white paper #1, reactive high carbon steel from Hitachi. The heat treat's up around, they didn't really specify in the site, but based on some of their other stuff, I'd say it's around 62 Rockwell. That's a educated guess on my part. The construction is a 3-layer sandwich with a soft iron cladding with a Kudauchi finish over the top of that core steel. The core steel here is basically looks like black because they've done an acid etch on it. So it's a really cool look, and then you can see the shiny edge bevel from behind there at the very edge, so it's an interesting look. It's a cool looks. I can't state durability on this, but it's a nicely done finish. It's matte, but it's not. It's fairly smooth, but it's matte finish on the Kudauchi on this, so it's really cool. The weight on this knife is going to vary a little bit, as will the dimensions and the spine thicknesses and the height and so on, because they're handcrafted. But this one's 158 grams or 5.6 ounces. The edge length on this one is about 206 millimeters on the edge from the tip to the chin, and that's about 8.1 inches. Overall length, a little over 14 inches or 358 millimeters approximately. The spine thickness, this is a blade that's stiff. It is not any little mamby-pamby skinny little laser. It's got some heft and stiffness to it. So it's about 3 millimeters above. It's a little thicker coming out of the handle, but it thins down to about 3 millimeters here above the back of the heel here, the chin. And then it doesn't taper off a whole lot. It pretty much holds a lot of that and then thins out with about the last 1.5 inches and gets pretty skinny right at the very tip. So right where it counts, they thin it up with the grind. But again, not a ton of distal taper, but they do it where it counts at the end. Height on this one was 46.8 millimeters, almost 47 millimeters at the back of the blade. And the handle is an octagonal, what's known as Kei walnut. Kei, I believe, is the company making them. And so it's a well-done handle. It's fairly thin this way, slab-wise, width-wise, from this perspective, and a little bit wider that way. So it's a kind of a skinny feel in hand, and so it's not real rounded dimensionality-wise, or dimension-wise. Made up a new word there. We'll take a close-up look at it. But the circumference of the handle is about 70 millimeters, about 2.75 inches, about right here, where a ferrule would normally be, the end of the ferrule. You've got a great shape for a pinch grip, so very comfortable spot in the back of the choil here. It's nicely sanded down and relieved, as well as on the spine, so it's very comfortable. Again, perfect spot for your finger for a pinch grip, so it just fits beautifully in a pinch grip. In fact, the balance point, at least for me, is almost right on the money for a pinch grip. It's on that first kanji, and it's right there, so real neutral if you do a pinch grip. Very neutral. And if you do that, the handle shape probably wouldn't really enter into the equation as much of an effect. So let's take a close-up look. This is a really cool blade. So complete departure from what Konosuke normally brings in. So it's well done. You can see the acid etch effect there on the core steel showing. These had a nice out-of-the-box edge. I'll give it a 7 out of 10. It's a well-crafted bevel. So whatever maker is using, they're putting a pretty nice edge on this particular one. And you can see some hand-chiseled kanji. Your grind pretty much starts right where you see it. And again, the spine is fairly thick, and it holds pretty much until you hit the very end where it thins up nicely. So this blade is stiff. The grind pretty much looked about 50-50 to me, the way I kind of eyeball it and do some things with a straight edge. And then the edge itself is about 50-50, so this should be a very neutral knife. This is just a cool blade. I have not used it. I don't intend on using this one, but the performance should be quite good because it gets thin at the edge and it's thin at the tip, but you've got some stiffness, so it should be pretty good on food release. It should be just an excellent all-around blade. Shitogami number 1, super easy to sharpen. You know, gets to stinking sharp pretty easily. The profile on this is a little unique, so let's take a look at it. You will see a lot of belly towards the front half. So, kind of reminds me of a knife series Mark has that starts with a Z. That's all I'm going to say. But you'll see not a lot of flat and a quite heavy characteristic, pretty aggressive belly towards the front half of the blade. What does that do for you? You can rock the heck out of this thing. It will rock really high, and it's really smooth on the rock. Are you a chopper? You probably won't like this knife. But if you like to rock, or if you're coming from Western knives that have more of this style, and you like that, and you want to kind of keep that on a Japanese knife, here you go. Again, not much flat at all, so really heavily oriented towards aggressive belly towards the front half of the blade. But it's just a neat package. It's stiff. It's going to be confident, inspiring during use. It's thin at the edge. Great look to it with the etching on it. So it's a neat knife. So this is the Konosuke Keiai T1 Shitogami number 1 Gyuto 210mm knife.